balanced view on politics in today's world. Based on facts, born of rationality, common sense, and logic. Providing context on today's events, this is American Perspective with Rick Thomas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to American Perspective. I am your host, Rick. You know, normally I change my background for you guys a little, every once in a while. I know I've had the snowy cabin background up, but you know what? I'm just telling you right now, I'm keeping this up for at least this week. Maybe on Monday I might think about changing it again, but for right now, yeah, we're going to keep it where it is. 47, baby, 45 and 47. Anyway. Oh, wow. Okay. So coming down from the high, we got to get serious. We got to talk about real business. What comes next? I got a little bit of that for you a little bit later on in the program. Also, too, there is some interesting things running afoot, and I'm sorry. I can't help it. I got to make fun of these people because they are literal morons. But anyway, before I get into all that, of course, let's go ahead and listen to, or have our very own Amy of the Rumble fandom, Whiskey Warrior P1, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, we're going to have Amy lead off tonight's Pledge of Allegiance. So if you are of mine, please stand, remove your hats if you have one, and if not, at least place your hand over your heart. And let's go ahead and listen to Amy reciting the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Amy, for that wonderful rendition of the Pledge of Allegiance. If you would like your rendition of the Pledge of Allegiance played here on the program, all you have to do is record yourself reciting the pledge in your style, and then take that audio file and attach it to an email. Then send that email off to fans, F-A-N-S, at americanperspective.online. That's fans, F-A-N-S, at americanperspective.online. And I'll get you into the rotation at that point. Tonight's headline sponsor is the Institute on the Constitution. The Institute on the Constitution was established in 2004 as a 501c3 nonprofit with one singular mission, and that is to restore the constitutional republic through grassroots education. All courses and materials are developed using primary source documents and taught from the American view of law and government as defined in the Declaration of Independence in the following 3 key points. 1, there is a God. 2, our rights come from him. And 3, the purpose of civil government is to secure and protect our God-given rights. The IOTC offers the opportunity to educate yourself on our most precious founding document, the Constitution of the United States. They also provide tools to educate your community and get involved with local government. Start by taking their free U.S. Constitution course and go from there. Use my affiliate link, iotc.americanperspective.online, to sign up. And while you are there, take a moment to look through their other course material and information. My affiliate link, once again, is iotc.americanperspective.online to get great content to learn about our historical founding and support the show in the process. That's iotc.americanperspective.online. Or if you just want to purchase this fabulous Saddleback leather-bound U.S. Constitution to support the show, go to constitution.americanperspective.online. Take a look at this wonderful thing. It's got 1/8 of an inch of Saddleback leather. The pages are tear and water resistant. And take a look at that binding. Nope, no cheap glue here. It's stitched all the way through the leather and the pages contained within. It has a 100-year warranty against material and workmanship defects, such that they will send you a replacement or fix the one that you send them for free. It has sexy rounded corners, according to all of my rumblers, so that you don't get poked in the rear end or in the chest, depending upon where you put this pocket-sized book of liquid information, liquid gold information. No, it's actually platinum information here. Anyway, go to constitution.americanperspective.online to get yours. And don't forget that it is buddy tested, buddy approved, Billy tasted, Billy approved, and my youngest whiskey warrior has confirmed that the information contained within will help you get your civics badge in Scouts. It would probably help you get your civics test taken care of too. Go to constitution.americanperspective.online to pick yours up today. Also, don't forget to check out the rest of the IOTC's information, books, materials, gifts, etc. And I thank them for allowing me to be an affiliate. I almost said brand ambassador, but that's not quite it. Anyway. All right, folks. Whew. Wow, we're still reeling, at least I am. I'm still reeling from the decisive victory that we had over the course of the night. And in fact, checking back in to the electoral college and all of the races and everything else. Right now, it looks like, well, Decision Desk HQ, they're still counting, but they have gone and given Trump 312 electoral votes to Harris's 226, which is a decisive and also a historical victory for Donald Trump, because the last time and the only other time that somebody was able to basically be president, get kicked out of office, and then regain the presidency was Grover Cleveland. And that was back in the 1890s, I believe. And so anyway, also too, this is the most historic victory, the last time that the Republicans have won both the Electoral College and potentially, and I'm only saying potentially because they're still counting votes in the commie left coast states in Washington, Oregon, and California, and potentially he has won the popular vote as well. Now, here's the thing. Right now, they're listing the popular vote as Kamala Harris having somewhere around 69.4 million votes, Donald Trump having 73.9 million votes. So if the trends continue with the way that they are, she is going to gain on him a little bit, but not a lot of, I mean, there's not enough there for her to overtake him in the popular vote. So because, again, the trend line's just running through, Washington is roughly a 60-40 split. Oregon is a 55 to 42% split, and California is also running just a little under a 60% to 40% split. So they're basically, I mean, no matter what, he's going to keep gaining votes, and I don't think she's going to have enough to basically overtake him in the popular vote. So it looks like he has won the popular vote as well. Also, too, I want to send out a congratulations, although it might be it depends on what happens with the recount vote, but Republican Dave McCormick has flipped Pennsylvania's Senate seat, they're announcing right now, which makes McCormick bring the majority in the Senate up to 53 seats. Now, the thing about this is that Pennsylvania has a state law that essentially requires that if the differential between the winner and the loser is within a 0.5% margin, then it is an automatic recount that kicks in. Okay. And right now, the way that they have it That's within a 0.5% margin. So that, don't be surprised. It's probably going to go back to a recount, but also don't panic either, because if on the off chance that Dave McCormick loses his seat, that means we go from 53 to 52. So we still maintain the Senate. We just don't have as much of a lead for that. And also, too, just as a comment, as far as the House is concerned, the House has increased, the Republicans have increased their number of definitive, meaning already, fully counted and called seats. 214 seats versus the Democrats' 200 seats. Now, here's the thing. As I walk through the seats that are left, in terms of the races that are left, what happens is there's only one place that I can see right now that has a incumbent, or that has no incumbent, or an incumbent that is losing, and that happens to be Alaska. So Alaska, as of right now, is the one place that, if it comes in the way that we think it will, we will have gained an additional seat. So as of right now, all of the incumbents are pretty much, the remaining incumbents are winning, with the exception of Alaska. The remaining incumbents are winning. So the number of Democrats and Republicans is not changing in that, provided that they all come out and are expected to come out the way that they are. As far as that goes with, let's see. As far as that goes with the House of Representatives, that'll mean that the Republicans, instead of, they'll get their 219, they'll probably have 220 seats, 220 seats. I think if I calculated that right, either 220 or 221. I'll need to go back and add that up. But anyway, it still means that we will likely hang on to the House as well. So that means that all three houses, or all three important parts of the process at the federal level, will be in Republican control. And that, trust me, is a grand thing. Of course, we'll keep an eye on that as time goes by. But this news came out, and it's actually not really surprising, to be honest with you. But this news came out, and it's just yet another bad news thing for the Democrats. But before I do that, I almost missed this. This is a Rumble rant from Music Man. Thank you very much. On the road. And he says, I am the WWE fan that Rick was talking about. I do watch the show after the live stream on most days. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that Rumble rant. I do appreciate that. And Mark asks, all three what? Well, that means that the presidency, the House, and the Senate, which covers all of Congress as well as the presidency, which locks up the legislative and the executive. We don't do anything necessarily on the Supreme Court, although I do have a little bit of something on that here pretty soon. All right. So this in the National Pulse, the Kamala Harris's failed campaign is $20 million in debt after blowing a billion with a B, on this presidential campaign. So apparently they, the Democrat Party, the Harris campaign owes the Democrat Party, or is, if also the Democrat Party, sorry, I'm mismeaning this entire thing. But anyway, is $20 million in debt. Federal Election Commission data shows that the Harris campaign blew through $1 billion in just 107 days after replacing the incumbent Joe Biden at the top of the ticket. All in all, the 2024 presidential race was also the most expensive in in American history. So yeah. Surpassing both the 2020 and 2012 elections. In the latter contest, Barack Obama and Mitt Romney, that both combined raised over $1 billion. $1 billion. Hell, I am just having a hard time hearing this. So anyway, yeah. So anyway, as I was saying, that's what you've got. That's what you've got. Blew. Can you imagine blowing $1 billion on something that you lose at? I don't even know. I can't even imagine having even $1 billion on hand. Joan Adams over on Facebook says she spent it on celebs. Yeah, I'd agree. She probably did. I mean, I know that there was some reports, by the way, that, who was it? Not Lizzo. I think it was, Beyonce. She spent like $10 million to get Beyonce to talk for like 2.5 minutes. I don't know. Anyway, so let's talk really quick about, some of these monkey wrenches and things that are going to happen in, these, all of Trump's cases. Now, I talked to you a little bit about last night, where Smith is looking like he is probably going to, just ask for dismissals on the case. And the reason being is because, obviously he would get fired anyway. He was unconstitutionally appointed. We know they were bullshit cases, and the reasoning that they're claiming is because the Department of Justice has a long-standing tradition that they don't prosecute sitting presidents. Well, yeah, it's basically a way for Jack Smith to save face, honestly. He's probably going to get fired anyway, but whatever. However, that being said, that's only 2 of the 4 cases that we still have pending things on. For an example, the Georgia election fraud case, or RICO charge case, which is still slated to go up in front of the Georgia Supreme Court, the Georgia State Supreme Court, in January. That one's still going on, and it didn't really get changed any because Fani Willis is Fani or Fanny or whatever her freaking name is. Anyway, she just got rehired by the voters for some damn reason. But unanimously, almost. I mean, just resoundingly. I don't know why. They're basically morons anyway. They should have fired her ass. But anyway, she's coming back. So, yeah. So anyway, the other one being the Juan Merchan case, where he was convicted of 34 counts of minor felonies. Okay. Which of course the left are just like salivating over. And that's actually coming up next week, by the way, just so you understand. So case in point, or article in point, Washington Examiner, Trump election throws a new wrench into the Manhattan hush money case. President-elect Donald Trump's criminal case in Manhattan has a dimmer future following his election victory on Tuesday night, but it may not disappear as easily as his federal cases. Trump's anticipated return to the White House has thrown a constitutional wrench, more than one, into the case that could weaken his forthcoming sentence or doom the case entirely. But a lot hinges on Judge Juan Merchan's next moves. Merchan is set to make key decisions in the case in the coming weeks after Trump was convicted by a jury this year of falsifying business records in the aftermath of his 2016 election. So here's how the case could unfold. What comes next is Trump, of course, is awaiting a ruling from Merchan on whether the Supreme Supreme Court's recent presidential immunity decision has rendered Trump's guilty verdict untenable. Now, I'm going to tell you that right there is probably the best way out for this whole thing. Trump has argued that the verdict should be thrown out, and Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg, I can't remember what I call him as a thing. I mean, I know Jackoff Smith, but anyway, Alvin Bragg, Twinkies, that's what it was, Twinkies. Alvin Twinkies Bragg disagrees. Mershon said that he plans to issue a decision on the immunity by next Tuesday. Okay? Now, if that immunity ruling is unfavorable to Trump, the next step would be for Mershon to sentence Trump on November 26th. However, a source familiar with Trump's legal plans told the Washington Examiner a sentencing hearing is unlikely even to occur, at least not any time before Trump's term in the White House expires. So what's going to happen is Mershon may end up getting a motion from Trump's defense team to basically stay until later this week. There's a lot of grounds to stay, including potentially a supremacy clause argument. The president has statutory duties during the transition, and that the guess is that sentencing probably won't occur. And the case, by the way, could be paused too. The case could be paused until Trump leaves office. Yeah, let's just, if that were to happen, my guess is, and this is what John Blackman, an associate professor of South Texas College of Law, suggested that Bragg may have no appetite to continue if it's paused. The purpose of these cases was lawfare, basically. He kind of questioned it, but let's face it, that's a statement. And Blackman told the Washington Examiner it was to try to keep Trump out of the Oval Office. They failed, so it doesn't serve any more purposes. I mean, that's about it. So, pretty much what we have here. And by the way, Trump was convicted of 34 low-level felonies that carry a maximum of a 4-year prison sentence. But sentencing guidelines have always suggested that Trump would face far less time behind bars than that, or perhaps no jail time at all. Now, in the event that the sentencing hearing does proceed, Mershon would face limitations on what penalties he could impose. According to a New York-based attorney, Karen Agnifino, who once served in the top role in the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, she said anything that could interfere with his ability to serve as president would actually be unconstitutional and in violation of the Supremacy Clause. She added that a fine or community service could be possible, but that probation or jail would not be options. So, I mean, here's the thing, okay? And this is the truth. Here's the thing. The best course of action that Juan Mershon can take right now, the absolute best, would be to essentially dismiss the case entirely due to the immunity ruling by the Supreme Court. That honestly, that would be the best possible outcome and the most likely saving face outcome of all of this. Bragg gets to save face. You know, he can talk about, oh, well, you know, I was able to successfully get him a jury conviction or whatever. I mean, he can brag about all of that. And then Mershon gets to save his thing as well. Gets to save face too, because he can say, well, you know, the Supreme Court tied my hands. I had him, but then the Supreme Court tied my hands. So yeah, they, That's probably, that would be my guess, is to, in terms of if they are planning to do anything, that would probably be the best result, honestly, for that. Now, all of this too, by the way, all of this too is causing some interesting things going on with the Department of Justice, because there's a suggestion now, and this coming out of the Daily Caller, there's a suggestion now that there is a deal coming together that would be a full-on clemency package from the federal government that ties both Trump and Hunter together. So, what are they planning on doing with this? Well, according to former federal prosecutor Andrew McCarthy, said Thursday that a clemency package for both President-elect Donald Trump and Hunter Biden could be coming together. So, special counsel Jackass Smith is reportedly closing down his cases against Trump, whom he indicted for the mishandling of classified materials and blah, blah, blah. Well, he's actually unconstitutionally appointed. But anyway, McCarthy said that dropping the cases against Trump could also enable President Joe Biden to pardon his son Hunter, who was convicted on a federal gun charge and who has pled guilty to federal tax charges. Now, McCarthy also continued, I also think, from what I can gather, that sort of a deal is coming together because everyone understands that President Biden is going to pardon his son Hunter. Yeah, he's going to pardon him. I mean, let's just face it. Regardless of whether he said that, no, I'm not going to pardon my son or not. Seriously, give me a break. He's going to pardon his son Hunter. Okay. And of course, that is going to call into question his whole situation, and it's not going to go down well if it's the only thing that Joe Biden does. However, it might soften the blow a little bit, at least in terms of the perception of things, is that if they can kind of tie it together and say, well, we're pardoning Hunter, but we're also dropping the cases against Donald Trump. At least that's the thought. Well, we'll see if any of that or all of that happens. But I mean, I pretty much know that's going to, seriously, Joe Biden's going to pardon Hunter. Just, I'm making that out there, regardless of whether it's by itself or not. Okay. That's it right there. Joe Biden's going to pardon Hunter. Oh, and by the way, the left, sorry, I had to take a drink, has kind of upped their a little bit of crazy, off-kilter, out of bounds, or out of this world kind of thoughts, because somebody suggested that Joe Biden, and believe me, this is not confirmed in any way, shape, or form, and I highly doubt it would happen, but somebody suggested that Joe Biden, as a final FU to Trump and the Republicans, would go and essentially step down due to health reasons and appoint or bring Kamala Harris in as the president so that technically we could get a black female president for all of about 2 months. Yeah. Don't worry about that. That's probably not going to happen. And you want to know why? Because of the fact that Joe Biden hates Kamala Harris. Joe Biden is not going to do anything to help Kamala Harris in any way, shape, or form because of what she did to him. And if you don't think that that old man, who is a narcissistic, self-centered, it's all about me individual, you know, where the Biden name was the most important thing in the world. Yeah, I honestly don't think that he's going to help her in any way, shape, or form. Honestly. It's kind of an interesting thought, but I don't think it's really going to matter. Well, something else has come out from the left. And they are Oh, and yeah, wouldn't G says that 47 behind you would change in that case. Yeah, actually it would. It would turn to 48. But I don't think that's going to happen. Anyway. All right, before I get to the next my next subject topic, let me tell you about this fantastic shirts, I should say all of them. This shirt that I'm wearing, this American flag themed, all kinds of wonderful goodies and American goodness on my body. This is a version of a We the People shirt. They got a lot of them. But theflagshirt.com is where you can get one, theflagshirt.com. And they are still continuing their Veterans Day sale where you get 10% off site-wide by using the code VETERAN10, VETERAN10, VETERAN10 in the promo box at checkout to get 10% off site-wide all of their products and everything that they've got. Go to theflagshirt.com, peruse their catalog, and don't forget to use the code VETERAN10, VETERAN10 at checkout in order to get 10% off your order. Also, for those of you that are aware and purchase $75 or more of the $75 or more of the products on theflagshirt.com, they will provide you with free shipping on all orders that are $75 or more at theflagshirt.com. Theflagshirt.com. Don't forget to use promo code VETERAN10, VETERAN10 at checkout in order to get 10% off site-wide. Go to theflagshirt.com and get yourself patriotized. Bonnie, I don't have your picture queued up, so it's going to be a little bit difficult for me to pull that down. I will show it the next time I talk about theflagshirt.com. Okay. All right. Fat Paws, for those of you that don't know, Fat Paws, is wearing the, I believe it's the Mount Rushmore, shirt from them. I'll show it to you. Anyway. Okay, let's get back. So, hey, men, especially you MAGA men. Oh, and I guess Bonnie's wearing one as well. I didn't notice that in the picture. So, we'll take a look at both of them together. Anyway, so for all of you MAGA men, or non-MAGA men, actually, and for all of you men, period. Apparently, the liberal left has decided to kick off what is essentially a sex strike. It's actually what they're doing is this movement that they're calling the 4B, that's 4 Bravo movement. Okay. I had to look it up because I honestly didn't even know what it was. I had to look it up. And here it is. It's right here. The Guardian, out of the Guardian. No man will touch me until I have my rights back. And then they ask, why is the 4B movement going viral? Well, the 4B movement, you can see by this photo that's right next to my head here. All of these women are starting to talk about how men can't have, if the women can't have autonomy over their bodies, then men can't have it either. Well, okay, again, folks, let's just be real. Absolutely zero rights have been lost here. Okay, zero rights. So, anyway, the 4B movement has actually come from South Korea. It was a movement that was done in South Korea, and demonstrators that were over in South Korea who swore off heterosexual dating in protest against misogyny. And it was also done in protest to a spate of films, hidden camera films of women in their spaces, either, having sexual relations, peeing in toilets, things like that. Now, I can remember that particular crime spree event kind of happening. And what ended up happening is the South Korean women said, look, if you guys don't stop doing this, we're just going to, stop all kinds of sex. And other things. They essentially stood a sex out. Well, now apparently the liberal left women have jumped on this bandwagon and they're like, okay, we're going to follow this 4B movement. So the 4Bs, okay, is basically, they are going to not have sex. They're not going to get married. They're not going to date. And something else. I can't remember what the other one is. I'm trying to find it here. But yeah, it's basically all these women are starting to come out and they're starting to do things like, hey, well, it's time to boycott all men. You lost your rights and they lost the right to hit raw. 4B movement starts now. That was one creator who wrote on TikTok in a video that's been viewed like 4 million, almost, 3.4 million times. And so anyway, there's quite a few of these videos. Yeah, exactly. It's a sex strike. There's quite a few of these videos that have been running around on the internet lately about it. And in fact, there was one woman that I saw, and I think it's a few others, but there was one woman that I saw. She actually had her head shaved on camera, saying that she is not going to let her hair grow because she, during this whole thing, because she wants to basically make herself, if you can't, you can't control me or whatever. I had a thought about that whole thing, and we as the right and conservatives and, Christians, religious kinds of people have been telling them that, having an abortion is wrong, that you should probably practice the mode of abstinence. Okay. And if you practice that mode of abstinence, then you should, that should definitely help cut down on things like abortion. Yeah. Well, what these people don't seem to understand, and again, this is part of the reason why I call them morons. They just don't think these kinds of things through. One, what you're going to do is you're going to cut back on all the abortions, which is what all of us Christians and pro-lifers wanted anyway. We wanted you to cut back on using abortion as your mode of birth control. And in my mind, I'm sitting here thinking, well, shoot, if they're not having sex, that means they can't procreate, which means that we're going to have less morons in the world. Hey, this looks like it's a win-win for me. I mean, I'm excited for this. I'll be honest with you, folks, ladies, you want to do that sex strike? Go for it. Please. Please. Okay, please do it. And the reason that I say that, and I am all for this. If you want to have this kind of movement, go right ahead. Because again, if you're joining this movement because of the fact that somebody voted for the opponent of the person that you wanted, if you're going to do that, well, hey, you know what? I've been telling you, only morons vote Democrat. So there you go. You just keep doing that moron thing, man. You'll go ahead, and all of you who jump onto that bandwagon, man, I'm going to tell you, you watch. The abortion statistics are going to drop like a stone, as well as the fact that we're going to have less morons down the road. You're going to find out that maybe we're going to have smarter people. Anyway. These people. I swear, They make up their own comedy. Realistically, they do. Speaking of comedy, Bette Midler. Yeah, the outspoken left-wing opponent of Trump has done what I thought was absolutely impossible to do. She actually left X. She took off and left X. That's right. Bette Midler flees X after the Trump victory. She apparently left the platform. Now, first of all, I didn't even know this. Okay. I didn't even know this. But she took off after joking that she would drink bleach if Trump wins. Here it is. Bette Midler. This account doesn't exist. Oh my gosh. And by the way, too, Rob Reiner apparently hasn't been seen either, and he threatened to set himself on fire if Trump won. Yeah. So I'm kind of hoping, to be honest with you, that a lot of these lefties that are out there who said that they would leave the country if Trump got elected again, I'm kind of hoping that they leave. Seriously. Go. And I've actually even responded to a few on social media who've been saying, well, you know, I'm done. I'm going to leave the country. I'm going to leave. I'm going to leave. I'm like, well, why don't you just go? I mean, and then, of course, the ones that talk about hating the country and hating all you effing morons who voted for Trump, all of those folks, yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I want to leave. Okay, fine. Go. You're not stopping. We're not stopping you. You know, I actually even said, don't let the door hit you on the way out. Get out of here. Go. And yeah, it's, anyway, I'm waiting for a lot of these people to do this because you remember when this happened in 2016, they all talked about, oh, we're going to leave the country in 2016. We're going to leave. And they never left because they don't want to go away from their gravy train, which is right here in the very country that they hate. Yeah. So anyway, Nicole B1240 over on Rumble, I saw this too, says, I saw women saying that they were going to delete their period tracker from their phones because the government will find out if they miss their cycle and go after them for illegal abortions. Yeah, like the government really is going to do that when it's a state's issue. And yeah. So anyway, oh, these people are nuts. This is what we have to deal with, folks. I mean, seriously, this is what we're going to have to deal with. Probably for at least the next few months, if not the first year or two. Also, too, by the way, I did see that there was a protest in Chicago on the Trump victory, as though that's going to change the outcome. Like, well, I don't like it, so I'm going to protest, and that protest means that you know, my protest and my feelings, that they override close to 74 million votes for the man. Yeah, I don't think so. All right. Well, now that he's been elected, what's next? Well, as you can see in the Washington Examiner here, President-elect Donald Trump has a 75-day transition period ahead of him to build out his team before Inauguration Day on January the 20th. One item at the top of Trump's to-do list will be figuring out how to fill roughly 4,000 government positions with political appointees. These roles include positions from the Secretary of State to other cabinet positions to those selected to serve part-time on boards and commissions. About 1,200 of those appointments will require Senate confirmation, which we have control of the Senate, so we're good to go there. All right. Which shouldn't be a problem, like they said, as Republicans are on pace to have at least a 2-seat majority in the chamber. It could possibly be even 3 at this point. I do know that his chief of staff has been picked now. In fact, here in the Epic Times, Trump announces that Susan Wiles, who was his presidential campaign manager, is going to be the White House chief of staff. Now, okay. I thought they said that Trump didn't like strong women, that Trump would like avoid strong women. Well, let's see. He had his campaign manager, who was a woman, and now he's taken that campaign manager and put her into the most influential position in the White House, the chief of staff, which, by the way, history comes knocking because she will be the first woman to hold that position in the White House. Okay. So anyway, let's go back to the Washington Examiner piece. So now his security, of course, is going to be increased a little bit more. He's expected to stay in the president's guest house, the Blair House, which will be near the White House prior to the inauguration. So he possibly will also conduct most of his transition out of Trump Tower in New York like he did before, but I'll bet you he's going to be a little more cautious about the traffic, the internet traffic that's going to be going in and out of there based on his experience. But anyway, so it's going to be interesting to see if Melania Trump moves back into the White House now that he's been elected, because she already said that she would not move back into the White House if he won. So we'll just have to kind of see. But anyway, he's, yeah, up until the point that he gets inaugurated, he's not really going to have any kind of power, which we all know that. So anyway, but what would a Trump presidency kicking off look like? Well, Newsmax had this article come out, and it says that under Trump, Congress could push tax and spending cuts. We hope they do. Okay, we hope they do. He looks like he's going to win both chambers of Congress, which will be perfect. And so expect probably in the first 100 days or so that he is going to be pushing out the idea of tax and spending cuts, energy deregulation, border security patrol controls. As you heard him say on the campaign trail, the very first day he's going to become a dictator. The first dictatorship thing he is going to do is drill, baby, drill, and close the border. There you go. Dictatorial things that he has full control over anyway. But we'll just kind of have to see. Early priorities, of course, are expected to include extending the tax cuts, funding the wall, cutting unspent funds allocated by Democrats, eliminating the Department of Education, and curbing the powers of agencies, including the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, according to certain Republican lawmakers and aides that are going on. So, yeah. So these are some of the things that you could be looking at. Also, too, to give you a little hint as to what might be coming down the pike in his first few days, is RFK obviously is going to potentially get a place in his cabinet, or at least work with Donald Trump about getting rid of certain things. Well, RFK was on an interview this past week where some departments of the FDA have to go, he says. Oh, there we go. So my video is frozen? How is that happening? That is weird. Hang on just a second here, folks. Let's see if I can get it. Nope. Okay. That is extremely odd. Hold on. There's that. is this Frozen 2? No, it's not. Okay, it was just me. All right, there we go. So here we go. So anyway, the RFK is saying that some departments at the FDA have to go. And so what we have right here is that he was saying in some categories, and this is RFK Jr., in some categories, there are top officials at the agency that need to be dismissed for not protecting American kids. This boils down to chemicals and other ingredients that are allowed in food targeted at children, he explained. He made the remarks during an interview with MSNBC. And so, yeah, so that could be potentially the point here. And also, he was asked, too, if he would eliminate any agencies. And RFK Jr. was right about this. He says, to eliminate the agencies, as long as it requires congressional approval, I wouldn't be doing that. I can get corruption out of the agencies. I've sued all those agencies, he said. So, yeah, we could be looking at some serious shakeups. Also, too, and this one is also important, very important, by the way, Trump's election could now fortify a conservative Supreme Court majority in the Supreme Court. Yeah, conservative Supreme Court majority. So here's the deal. Justices John Roberts, Samuel Alito, Clarence Thomas, and Sonia Sotomayor are all age 70 and above and could be looking at retirement. Now, Samuel Alito and Clarence Thomas might retire just to be certain that Trump gets to pick their replacements. John Roberts, who tends to kind of play loosey-goosey with some things and issue narrow opinions and that kind of stuff. John Roberts may not be likely to go and retire. However, Sonia Sotomayor, who is one of the three activists, not constitutional jurists on the board, is 70 years old and is reportedly having some potential health challenges that could affect whether or not she decides to retire as well. Now, if you recall, RBG hung on until the very, very end. So you might see something like that happen. But if Sotomayor ends up having to retire because of her health issues, then we could be looking at a 3 to possibly 4 Supreme Court justices within the 4 years that Trump is in office. Now, because of the fact that we currently hold the Senate, because Senate confirmation has to be done with these things, because we happen to hold the Senate right now, if Alito and Thomas were smart, they would retire within the first 2 years. And the reason being is that we would get potentially clear and swift confirmation from a Republican-run Senate. That would be, in my mind, that would be the wise way to go. And for Trump, if that ends up occurring, my suggestion to Trump is find copies of Clarence Thomas, the most conservative justice on the court. Complete. Okay? So if Alito and Thomas decide to retire within the next 2 years, okay, that would be the best scenario, that they should retire after Trump gets inaugurated and is in office within the first 2 years. Now, John Roberts is probably going to hang on. He's more than likely going to hang on until the bitter end because John Roberts is just that petty. But if we could get 3, because Sotomayor, if Sotomayor ends up getting bumped out, you could end up with a 7-2 constitutional justice majority. And if you get them young, like Justice Jackson is only 50. What does it say at the very bottom here? Jackson is 54. Sorry, Jackson Brown is 54, and Elena Kagan is 64. So Elena Kagan could be on the could be on the docket to retire, within the next 10 to maybe 15 years. But the fact is that we could be looking at a potential of a thrilling Trump presidency in the next 4 years. And you know what's really funny about all of this, at least funny, haha, is the fact that, if the Democrats had been smart and not screwed around with 2020 and just left Trump in, because think about this, if he'd have gotten elected as president, he probably would have ended up with a Democrat Congress, which is essentially would have tied his hands on stuff. And so what would have ended up happening is he would have been essentially neutered. Sorry, guys, but neutered for the 4 years that he was in. He might have been able to pick up, maybe the last 2 years from like 2022 until now. But now, because the Democrats don't think past the next big thing and don't think, okay, now that we've done this, then what? They squandered that opportunity of getting Trump completely out of their lives for 4 years, and they're now facing him again with the first 2 years of his presidency being a Republican majority in both the Senate and the House. Now, for all of that, I'm just saying, Republicans, grow some balls. That's it. Just grow some balls. Period. All right? So use this next 2 years that you have for absolute certainty to your advantage. All right? Use it. Don't forget being nice. The Democrats are already, in fact, Chuck Schumer was like, oh, we're looking forward to bipartisanship in the Senate because he knows he's losing. He knows he's losing his seat. So I would love to see, honestly, in the Senate, I would love to see H.R. 2 come up as the first thing that they decide on, and that to get completely passed, because the House has technically already passed it. So if it's because it's been sitting in the Senate, I don't think there's any time limits on any of these things. So if they go in, if the Republicans take the Senate and the first thing they do is bring up H.R. 2 from when Mike Johnson first came on, could you just imagine? Well, oh man, talk about the meltdowns. And then, of course, the next thing is Johnson, who is presumably going to stay in as Speaker. Johnson brings up the SAVE Act as their first action. Then that passes on to the Senate. The Senate passes that. Wow, we are talking about some serious changes that could be going on in this entire thing. I would love to see all of those things happen. Okay. I would love to see all of those things happen. Well, one thing I definitely don't want to see happen, and I hate to leave you on this kind of a downer note, but yes, as I have been predicting, China is potentially doing some moves because now they only have about 2 months of weak leadership until Donald Trump comes into office on January 20th. And here we go. This coming from the U.S. Naval Institute. Chinese carrier strike group deploys to the Philippine Sea. So they have a carrier strike group that is apparently the aircraft carrier CNS Shandong, number 17, sailed into the Philippine Sea accompanied by 2 escorts and conducted flight operations there on Monday, according to Japan's Joint Staff Office release. This is the 3rd time that Shandong has deployed to the Philippine Sea this year. And meanwhile, the People's Liberation Army Navy ships and Chinese unmanned aerial vehicles have been operating around Japan's Southwest Islands over the past week. On Monday in Indonesia, the Russian enemies began their first ever bilateral naval exercise, with Russia deploying a surface action group for the drills. More action is going on over in the Western Pacific. So this is, if anything's going to happen, folks, I'm telling you, it's going to happen in the next 2 months. Seriously. All right, folks, that is it for me for this evening. Sorry about the camera freeze up. It's kind of interesting that it did. But anyway, do me a favor, if you haven't already, head on over to rumble.com, get yourself an account. It is free. And once there, make sure you're signed in and then hunt up the American Perspective channel. And once you find it, hit that green follow button in order to follow me and get notified whenever I go live. Also, too, make sure you hit those thumbs up on all of my outlets, whether it's Facebook, YouTube, X, or, of course, Rumble, as that helps to elevate these videos and my channel, my shows, to a higher distribution and audience. We will see you tomorrow night, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on American Perspective. Have a great rest of your evening, and good night, everybody.
The previous broadcast was produced and is owned by Active Eye Media LLC. All rights reserved.